Good morning, YouTube. So in this video we're going to look at the old 1895 part of Stevens Canyon Road. So this is where the current single track and hiking trail goes up here. And I think in this area was also where the old road crossed the creek. Now this area here was heavily eroded in 2017 when we had the record rainfall. This big tree used to be growing up here, and the trail used to go around here. It was a real easy ride up there, and now it's a really steep bank here. The old road came up the south side of the creek and then crossed here over to the north side. Yeah, so let's take a look at the track that I recorded. So this was in late September of 2021, and I recorded this track from that first creek crossing in the previous photo, and then I went up to the creek crossing at the Table Mountain Trail. This is about the only place where you could have a road cross the creek for quite a distance in this canyon. In this area of the canyon, the sides of the canyon are really steep, and the road stayed up high on the south side of the canyon to avoid all that steep terrain. And I'll post a follow-up video where I hiked down to about here just to look at some of that canyon that you can't see from the road. It's actually pretty spectacular down here. And then upstream from here, the canyon also gets pretty steep again. So this is the modern OpenStreetMap topo map view, and I can bring in the old 1900 or 1895 map. The old road used to cross the creek, and that's basically right here. The offset here is probably on the order of 600 feet, maybe 200 meters, something like that. And here you can see here's the old road coming up the south side of the creek. It fords the creek here and then splits. There's a road that goes up to the ridge here, and then the old canyon road continued up, and it followed the north side of the creek for a while, and then right in here it crossed the creek and then stayed on the south side of the creek all the way up until it ended. So let's get rid of that map. Like the previous hike, I just took some photos as I walked up the creek. So this here is just past the water crossing. This is on top of that washed out bank, and the modern trail runs literally right on the edge of this bluff, and you can probably see the steel fence posts there. My guess is that this part of the canyon, there's probably a pretty hard resistant rock layer down on the bottom, and that's why the canyon is sort of wide and flat here, because there's this hard rock layer. And then just downstream from here, the creek starts cutting through that layer, and it gets a lot steeper and more rugged. So as a result, there's probably a lot of sediment that builds up on top of this hard rock layer. And I imagine over the years, this creek jumps around from one side of the canyon to the other side through this flat area, deposits a lot of sediment, and then cuts through it, and then deposits sediment someplace else, and then cuts through that. Yeah, so anyway, on this track, the left side is when I went up the creek channel, and the right side is when I came back down the single track trail. So you can see here how the creek has jumped all over the place, and we'll see that as we go upstream. So the next photo up, this was where the creek has jumped from this side of the canyon over to the other side. This is a California Bay Laurel tree. It's almost like a bonsai tree. You've got this tree, full-size tree, growing on top of this big boulder next to the creek, and the roots are wrapping around this rock. Really neat looking tree. And here the creek bed looks like it's pretty old. You know, everything's fairly flat and no real sharp banks or anything. now the creek jumps across to the other side of the canyon here, and you can see how this area is just recently eroded here. You can see the banks are really sharp, and the creek is kind of all over this area, just washing away the soil. And then looking just the other way, this is where the modern single track trail goes. And I'll show you a picture later on from up here. And I think that's also the old roadbed is right there. And then from that same point, looking downstream, there was this big tree that fell down and just exploded into thousands of pieces. And then this is looking upstream from the end of that tree. And here the stream bed looks pretty established, and there's this incredible oak tree here growing on the side of the creek channel, or actually growing over it. That's daylight under there. I've ridden up and down this trail that's over here hundreds of times, and I've never noticed this tree before, because when you're on the trail, you're up here looking down, and this bank is always in shadow, and you're looking down and you can't see daylight under there because you're looking into the bank. But walking up the creek channel at ground level, you see that there's daylight under that tree. And in fact, if you go upstream and look down, here's the tree trunk. There's more daylight under the tree than there is tree there. This is where the roots are. So this tree, full-size oak tree, has been growing there for a long time, and just amazing. And now every time I go by there, I notice this tree, because I know that it's just hanging in the air. You could sit under this tree if you wanted to. Really amazing. So just up a ways there, here's the old roadbed, still on the north side of the creek. And at this point, the single track trail has started climbing the canyon wall here. And then up a little farther, I think this is still the roadbed up here. And then here there's a big log jam. There's a huge tree, and then there's a huge rock outcrop. And in between there's just a huge pile of dead wood blocking the creek there. Someplace in here, I think, is where the road crossed over to the south side of the creek, like the old map shows. There's a roadbed probably up in this area, but it's really overgrown. I think this is all poison oak here. And I wasn't too keen on going up there and looking, but I imagine the road is over there, just around that bend. Here's the old roadbed up here. It's a little faint, but it looked like a road. And if you go up a little bit farther, this is why the creek makes a sharp bend there. The creek is flowing downstream, hits this vertical wall, and then there's this huge rock outcrop that sticks back this way. So the water must come down here, flow up this bank, and then it flows backwards and boils around this outcrop, and then makes basically a 90-degree turn right there. But then right at that point, looking the other direction, there's the old road going around the bend. A little bit farther, this must be a natural spring. There was a lot of greenery around here, some big rocks, and there was a pool there. Even though the creek was dry, there were fish and salamanders and all sorts of things hanging out here in the water. So there were pools of water even though the creek channel had dried up. And then up a little bit from there, there was another sharp bend here. And I think the road continues up under this fallen tree. It's kind of hard to see there, but if you go on the other side, it continues around the bend again. Nice road bed. There's the old cut. And you go up a little farther. This was looking downstream. This is right at the Table Mountain Trail. So there's a pretty good chunk of road here that you can walk down, and it's all in really good shape. This is where I started the first walk and made that video a little while ago. At this point, I just jumped back onto the the modern trail that was built in 1990. So I'm trying to figure out if I can get down to where I can see this water feature down there. So that's probably down in this area. You can see the creek bed way down there. This is on the single track trail, and I need to see if I can kind of side hill down this side of the canyon and get over to where I can see into that big whirlpool that must be running down there. And then this is down at the bottom here where the single track trail is back on the old road bed. So I think the old road bed was right along here, and that's where the current hiking trail goes up. This is the 1930 map, and it shows the same thing, but the quality of the map is a lot worse. No, they don't have the 1940. They have a 1960 map here. And unfortunately, the 1960 map doesn't cover this area. But there is a 1980 map, and you can see the 1980 map just shows the road ending here and nothing up here. That's been the case since the 1940 map off of USGS. The 1980 map does show this road coming down from Grizzly Flat up here. I think this dashed line is that Grizzly Flat road. So it does show the canyon trail ending here, the Grizzly Flat road ending here, and the canyon road ending here. So there's a big gap here with nothing in 1980. So yeah, it's really, really interesting looking at these old maps and seeing when do roads appear, when do they disappear. Then you have to try to piece together what was the chronology of these roads. When did they show up? When did they disappear? Which roads connected to which other roads? Anyway, that'll wrap up looking at the part of the old road that's still accessible, at least from the first water crossing at the end of the where the road exists today, and the third water crossing up here where the Grizzly Flat Trail crosses the creek. So we'll have to wait and see if there's anything else. So yeah, if you have any questions or if anybody has any information on when this road was built or why it was built, or if there was anything up here, if you have any links or references, feel free to post those up in the comment section below. I haven't been able to find much of anything besides these old USGS maps, and according to what I can find, it existed back in the day. I don't know what it was used for. There was just the one little dwelling that was up here, so I don't know if that road was built to come up here, and if so, why did they continue past that dwelling? That's the real puzzling thing. Is I could see somebody living up here and they build a road to get up to their place, but why did they build a road past? So yeah, there's still mysteries around this road, and as always, thanks for watching.